I've never seen it in that presentation.
I mean, you can't have a cross on it and tell it. This is like a fact. I mean, we could almost start a philosophy meetup just on that. Like, can you have a cross on it and tell it? The answer is no. Someone want to disagree with me?
I know, I can talk about this too.
I'm very weak on Nutella.
He's like looking at it like,
Like an apple.
Yeah, she showed
let's
up,
put
like,
pineapple in front of me.
That's perfect. So that's it.
And she was still somehow the first one to show
Yeah.
up as well.
Yeah, the rain kind of ruined this the last time.
Yeah, so it's getting us. So yeah, we can get started. So thank you for coming to the third edition of the philosophy club that we have. So yeah, we did one on how to deal with setbacks. Was the first one, and that turned out to be real great. Giacomo was there. It was surprisingly more successful.
Very interesting.
It was very interesting. Then we did a little one last week about death and philosophies around death, and then today's subject we're doing morality, and so we're going to be discussing morality here.
Yes.
And then, just some guidelines to keep things organized. Just keep in mind that this is like an informal discussion, so we don't, like, you can interrupt people. We don't have like a discourse or anything going on. Like we're just talking. Everyone's all friends here. We're not trying to win debates. We're just here to discuss ideas. So I'm gonna have some pretty dumb ideas. Some of you guys might have some dumb ideas. Like we don't have to argue about it. We can just kind of like try not to get offended, right? Take our ego out of it, and then as well, the final thing is to try to focus on practical philosophy.
Thank you.
So we could sit here talking about the meaning of life, all this stuff, but the way that I've thought about kind of building this thing is like philosophy is important, but how can we use it in real life? So I mean, I'm not sure how many people here are entrepreneurs or business people, but yeah, like, how can we use philosophy in a way to enhance our lives in terms of business, in terms of our relationships, and things like that. So that's pretty much the guidelines that we have. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, morality is the topic today. And so I would love to go around the table, get you to introduce yourself, and then also, I'm not really sure how we could use morality in our everyday life. So I would like to get all of your guys' opinion on what are some ways that we could practically discuss morality.
And what is morality?
What is
I guess the
morality?
definition.
So we can start here. We can start here with our boy Akram to the side.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? My name's Akram. Originally from India. I've been living in Canada for quite some time now. And excited to be here.
You want anything?
Twice.
Oh, yeah. So like morality. So we're gonna be discussing morality. Like, how is this an applicable idea in like day-to-day life?
Yes.
Why don't you start, Jeff?
Okay. I'll start. My name is Jeffrey Meyer.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
I'm here. Oh, and as well, we're recording. If you say anything weird and you don't want that in, just let me know. We can our
Check
editor.
the time.
Yeah, our editor will remove it. And then also, if you want to remain anonymous, we can, like, pretty much the way it is. We just have like photos of everyone, and it lights up depending on who's
I
talking.
love the one you shared.
Yeah,
I
it
love
actually turned out a lot better. Yeah, it turned out pretty cool. So if you want to remain anonymous, we'll just find some random person on the
And then if you
internet.
don't like someone, you can take the audio
We
clip.
can put Elon Musk
them on Twitter.
instead of your photos.
I'm gonna do that.
Or make it say something like Kant or
There's enough stuff out there. That it's gonna be pretty easy to do. But yeah, so if I'm starting, my name is Jeffrey Marr. I'm from Canada. I've been here in Mexico for 4 years. Morality is useful in practical sense for me because I believe morality started as like religious thing, like morals were kind of put in like with the Ten Commandments, teaching people how to live and things like that. But it's kind of changed now, so it's more a societal thing. But as well, I think the rules that society sets often are pretty dumb. And I think it's important to like get an idea of what your specific subjective things that you think are right and think are wrong is important, because if you just do what's right, or what the rules are, then you're gonna do some dumb stuff. So for example, like psychedelics have always been illegal, right? And if you just follow the rules, you'll be like, oh, that's against the rules. Like let's never touch that. But then if you actually think for yourself, like morally, is there anything wrong with it? You know, like I went and did a bunch of research. I was like, okay, I want to dip into the psychedelic thing, see what it's about, and it changed my life. So that's why I think it's important to figure out, like, morally, what do you think is right, what do you think is wrong, so that you're not following the rules. And then if you see something that you think morally is wrong, you can say something. And I also think it's like kind of your duty if you see something wrong, like to say something.
Yeah.
That's my stance on that.
Cool. Are you going around?
Whoever wants to go next. I was gonna say Akram, but then
I can really feel.
Yeah, I can
Way
go.
after.
Yeah.
Akram want to go?
My name is Gail,
Oh, she wants to
and I've been in Playa since 8 years now. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a consulting business, and nowadays I switched a little bit. I help entrepreneurs streamlining their processes and system and all of that, so that their business is leaner and make more profit, and they have more time as well. For me, morality, I've noticed, because I've lived in different countries, but it changes by country. I found it useful in how to behave in my business with contracts and clients in general. And in personal life, I think morality helps me, because it's different in each country. Then you understand, like you said, that it's not because somebody, religious or governmental, is saying something that it's true. So for me, it's helping finding myself. Like, okay, those are different opinions. What does feel right to me? And so to be as closest as possible to me, what feels right and what feels good is, yeah. And I guess over my life, morality switches. I mean, you know, like I evolve as I get challenges and stuff like that. I evolve in my point of view sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely the right or the wrong, but yeah, with an asterisk.
I'll go next, actually, because you said some stuff that I was thinking about saying as well. So my name is Sarah. I'm from Dublin. I'm also a consultant, and I'm new to Playa as of about 5 days. Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So actually what I was thinking about saying is that I would kind of agree that morality in most cases isn't absolute. And I think, it's very much dependent on the culture that you're in and the society that you live in. That being said, I think in certain cases most people would agree that it is absolute, maybe when it comes to, I don't know, not to jump in the deep end here, but like torturing children, etc., things like that. But I just wanted to hop in on that.
I want to hop in on that because I'm Angie. I'm a photographer. I've been here for a year and a half. I longboard and I see you walking your dog all the time. I want to talk about like being something moral and something ethical, because those are the two things that, like, when I did the research in the past, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if you guys know the scientific or the definition, but moral is individual. It's very, you're human, your soul, what you morally think is right or wrong, and your intuition, your values. Ethical is like a social,
I think it's the opposite.
You think so?
I did my homework.
Okay,
Today.
so
Yeah.
could you want
Depends
to...
a lot.
I guess she goes.
Actually, it depends a
We
lot.
can Google it.
Different,
I would. It may switch by country though.
Well, maybe
different
that
groups,
hurts. Yeah.
different point of view.
That hurt you
Refer,
But
mostly, they
let's
refer mostly
say
to the
it's
same
just a
things.
matter of definition.
Sometimes say
Yeah.
one.
Sorry, Angie, what do you
It's a
think?
system of value.
Well, for me, it's not like I wanted to talk about that in an absolute, but it's, yes, could be vice versa, but it's just, for me, morality, or just, I call it values, my integrity, is what I have constructed based on everything I have lived and outlived, and everything from my heart, my soul. I don't know how spiritual you guys may be, but I really am. And my spirituality has a lot to do with intuition, integrity, and my life experience as a human being. Physical, mental, and spiritual, right? So moral is just your compass of whenever you're making your next decision. whenever you're choosing to go right or left, to say yes or no to something, to apologize or stand your boundaries on something, that's when I think moral or morality comes into place. It's just like it's a compass, it's your intuition, something in the lines of that. I don't know if there's a difference between your intuition or your morality. I mean, yes, there is, because your intuition is more like a tool.
Yeah.
Intuition could be connected to survival as well. So, whereas morality maybe.
So I'm gonna go next.
It's a lot more.
Kind of counter.
My name is Monica, and I am a community builder. So I dedicate myself to build healthy social tissues, either in co-working spaces or virtual containers. And for doing that, it's just for personal reasons. I've been a seeker of truth like pretty much all my life. Since I was a child, I remember having a notebook, like noting down my thoughts and questioning my own thinking. And I've been studying like different moral systems, different schools of thoughts, different like religion, like story of religions and so on. And I found in Buddhism a very like sophisticated way of seeing morality, which is basically there are two paths, and it's not good or wrong. It's just a path that leads to well-being and a path that leads to ill-being. That's it. And there are decisions that will take you to constructive ends, and there are decisions that will take you to destructive ends for yourself.
Is that something like the path that Hercules chooses? Is that kind of
the Noble Eightfold Path?
Yeah, I know, but like, is that? I'm not sure if like Hercules has to make the choice
I
as well.
think she's just saying like everything you do in life, it can have like a negative outcome in the future or a positive outcome.
No,
in
but
the
he's
future.
trying to reference
like every single thing that
But it's interesting that like you say that is in Buddhism, but also in like the Greek mythology, there's a
there's
story
patterns
about
in
There's a lot of like
Every
overlap.
system is gonna have
that's
Because
Christianity.
we're all
that's
humans
everything.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Just different
all
philosophies or
religions,
religions,
yeah.
right? But the patterns do repeat themselves.
So I like that view because it's not about you're doing bad or you're doing good, but what you do, whatever you do, will lead to harmony, beauty, justice, or will lead to chaos and destruction and conflict.
Yeah.
So when you become aware of which kind of actions and thoughts, because everything starts with a thought, leads to where, you start building your own like compass, ethical compass, that ultimately you can use in business, in relationships, in your relationship with yourself. And for me, it's very useful. For example, yesterday I got a business opportunity to take the direction of something related to dolphin discovery, and I said no, because dolphin discovery is everything that I think it should be eradicated in planet Earth, And even though the money sounds very good and juicy, and I really will benefit from it, I will really feel like a disconnection from myself just by taking that opportunity.
So notice the hands in here, right? Seriously, I do want to point that out, because when she said the word compass, when she said the word, I noticed. I don't know how you guys see it, but that's when I find morality is also something energetically it's something in us, physically, mentally, spiritually, that tells us, okay, no, this just doesn't feel right.
I think to conclude my point is that the more you know, you cannot unseen what you know. So the more you gather information, your whole system of thinking and your energetical system itself gets like updated. So every time you face a choice like that, your new version, it's like, no, this is not compatible with myself. So I think that's the importance of keep nurturing yourself with information and with like circumstances that helps you like refine your thinking and your behavior more and more, so we can become a more like constructive individual in society. That's
experiencing different experiences to see also like, okay, do I like doing that? Is that like me or not?
I'm Andoni from Spain,
For most of my life, I have played poker professionally, and now I am building a business to help people with anxiety, to release anxiety. And I wanted to add on what Monica was saying, because I have also studied Buddhism and I found it very interesting the way that they approach morality. And something that allegedly the Buddha, or at least Buddhism teaches, is that morality is something that you have to experience by yourself first. Like the Buddha says, try it first, and then see what happens from doing that, what fruit you get from your actions. And then you will learn like that. It's not necessarily, it does have like a set of things that he recommends, so to speak, but like the precepts or whatever. But he always says like, do it first, pay attention to what happens in your life after you do something, and then based on that, like, you will see it, like you will understand. That's what's called like wisdom, so to speak, right?
Yes.
So I like the approach of Buddhism because it's not like perhaps other religions. I don't know much about other religions because other people can comment on that, but I feel like other religions perhaps they are more the way that they approach it nowadays is more like follow this and like this is
official truth.
Like what you have to follow. Whereas Buddhism, what I like about it is more like, listen, you try it, see what happens, and then like that's true.
Okay, let's add into this. My name is Giacomo. I'm living here in Playa since like 7 to 8 years already.
Oh wow.
We are the OG.
We know each other from a long time ago.
And I've been in so many things. Now I'm promoting a business for retreats in Tuscany for next summer, and maybe in Italy for next year too. What you said about like the differences between morality and religions are just one of the many possible. Morality for me is what we refer to the system of belief that we have. It's the system. It's a system of value. And it can be whatever. I'm very relatives about morality, to be honest. It can be whatever. It's a system of value. If you live in a society like in ancient Greek, where
Like what?
in ancient Greek
Okay.
there were slaves.
Yeah.
We really think about ancient Greek like the past, morality, and blah blah, but it's a place where slaves was a reality. They kill children if they are not able to fight. They are very sick. The society was all and equal for everybody. So it's a system of value. So when it comes to real life, it's as you go out from your own education, the better, because you can try different things. And trying different things, as Buddha says, is try and see what's good for you. And I think it's the only way, if we want to, as you say, enhance the world and make a better place, your community, let's say the third world, it's like combining the different stuff that we have from different system of values, because it's the only way we can go ahead with it. That's what I try to do. Rules is different from morality. The law is different from morality for me. Morality, because you can do things by law. Like you see, you did the example of acid, psychedelic stuff that they were forbidden, but the law is not what set up morality. Morality is set up before law. The law crystallized morality in a certain point and place.
Can we get clear on what is morality? Because now I'm confused. Because in my head, moral is something individual and ethics is something constructed by society. Is there any chance we can Google this?
Let's do that.
I googled this today, and it's
So
basically the same thing. It depends who talk about it. It's
I
the same
googled it
thing.
today because I wanted to prepare myself.
Yeah, me too.
And I found these definitions, which is law is a formal constructs in which a society is ruled. Basically,
I mean,
it's
law, yeah.
formal
It's
and
written.
it's written, and if you don't
structured,
follow
yeah.
it, you
That's
get punished.
That's the law, yeah.
Morality is a cultural system that guides society and that can be apart from the law.
It's
Is
the
it
accepted.
culture?
It's a social acceptance of rules and
So
customs.
it's culturally accepted.
Yeah,
It can it be individual
Ex-
then?
Ethics,
And
I
the
got as well, I got
individual exercises ethics, which is
Oh.
the analysis of those values and questioning, and then
That's when you
from
question.
So
ethics.
then, yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Then
Yeah, for
we're
me,
talking
ethics
about
is more
ethics,
like the human race on the human race. You know, like how a human being should conduct himself on another human being.
But that's so.
That's
Like
more
more
ethics.
universal,
But
I
ethics.
guess.
So what Moni was saying is that ethics is the individual construct based on what you, if you get yourself out of whatever social group you were born, raised, and or
It's
experienced.
impossible.
Yeah, but you also have like
It doesn't exist moral or ethic outside of
No, but when you say moral or ethics,
out of a society where you were.
Okay, maybe
This
I'll
is
read
social-
yeah, maybe let's
But,
just
but
read
then we
it.
need
Yeah,
an
let's-
example
let's-
for the
let's
individual.
read
I'll just read them and then we can.
yeah,
Yeah.
construct
Okay,
that,
let's
yeah.
So morality is defined as principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad
System of
behavior.
values.
And then they go on to say a particular system of values and principles of conduct, especially one held by a specified person or society. Then if we go on to ethics, which I think we should define ethics, morality, and law.
Yeah.
Ethics are moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Medical ethics also enter into the question.
Yeah.
The second definition is the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. Neither metaphysics nor ethics is the home of religion. I mean,
The second is like the ethic is the
It's more
science,
like
the study, the
discipline.
moral. It's
And then
medical
it's basically the same stuff.
and I think it's important
Yeah,
to
We
talk
don't have
about
like
law.
to
think
focus
it's the
on the
same.
distinction, I
What do
think.
you think is the difference?
No, is this for me? Sorry if I'm
No.
very
Yeah.
OCD
No, it's-
about
it's
this, but
important
for
to be
me,
clear.
it's very important to distinguish and have clarity on the definition of each word.
Yeah.
Because that changes the whole meaning of a
Yeah.
conversation.
No, of course.
So if we are still kind of in the lines of like, oh, it's similar, but it's not. For me, it's just this conversation could go a whole different
Yeah,
spectrum
you're right. I agree.
in
I
a
agree.
different direction. If we say this, if we all agree before we continue the conversation to say, for us today, moral means X, Y, Z, and then we all agree and collectively, like again, it's an acceptance of something.
So we're speaking the same language basically.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
Google says, is what
Exactly.
we agree
Yeah, we need to
today
agree
that
here,
it
yeah.
means.
Because then there's going to be trillions of different thoughts in everybody's heads about
Yeah.
what could be different. So
Yeah.
what do we agree to be moral?
My perspective coming into this was that morals are kind of, there's some that we all agree upon, and then they're quite individualistic. Like, one of us may agree on one and others may not agree with this. But there's a few like, don't kill someone, most of us would probably agree on. Then ethics are kind of agreed upon in society, but they're not necessarily based on morals. It's just like an agreed upon societal norm.
So it's more like a structured law.
What
And
kind
law is also different, I think, because
What-
it could be based on
law
moral
is
ethics.
going in
law
a-
is a totally
We're
different
going in
thing.
a loop.
But it's kind of like
We are, right? Should we just agree on something?
We should agree on
If you want,
something
we can
ourselves.
emphasize individual morality, individual ethics, and then social
Yeah.
morality, social ethics.
No, let's just find the meaning of moral, like morality.
A system of value that define what is good and what's bad.
Can you
A
look
system,
moral
but-
versus ethics on Google?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But I think where you
That's
were
the
making a
definition of
difference is
what-
whether it's you or whether it's the society.
Yeah, if it's
So
individual.
we need to precise that.
Yeah, if it's individual based on your own values, or if it's a collective acceptance
Yeah.
of what's right or wrong.
Okay, so according to Britannica.com, both morality and ethics loosely have to do with distinguishing the difference between good and bad, or right and wrong.
Yeah.
Many people think of morality as something that's personal and normative, whereas ethics is the standards of good and bad distinguished by a certain community or
The
subset.
discipline,
Is
yeah, like
what
science.
I'm into.
Yeah.
So what do we agree on? Based on, yeah, let's all
I
agree
don't
on
find
something.
any difference.
See,
No,
there is.
yeah,
There's a huge
well, morality is for individuals,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
ethics is for like a college of people, a college of doctors. A
Yeah,
college
yeah,
of-
yeah. It's because there are
Avocados.
both definitions
Yeah.
out there. So we can pick any definition and just go ahead.
Should we do that?
So are we going
Yeah.
to say that morality is just based on good and bad.
Morality.
Well, it's what is good and what is
What you
bad. I
should.
mean,
Yeah,
it can
yeah.
be personal. It's
Yeah.
gonna be always society driven. Must be.
Morality is society driven?
I don't know.
There's no way it is not.
It doesn't really necessarily
I
have
don't
to
think
be.
that's a fair distinction though, because you could live in a society that don't share the same values.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
And
you
I
have the
find
value
myself
that
living
has
in that
been built
It's getting
among another community that you feel you belong to.
I feel like you're describing more ethics than morality in that case. Because morality, I feel, is more personal, kind of like what you said. It's more like your intuition.
No, but I think what he means is
I know,
like,
I
we're all a product of our society.
Not all products.
Yeah,
From that, our morality, it will change,
Just
like,
trying to
a
see
little
what's
bit from
morality and
individual
what's
to individual,
ethics.
but at the end of the day, we're a product of our society. So,
However,
No,
that's
it's
kind
about
of,
difference.
in my opinion, not a great definition because
Okay.
just because you're connected to societal groupthink, like you're not obligated to follow those morals. So they're not by definition like, it's kind of, that's
You're not
more
obligated
ethics
to
because
follow
they're
any
like
morals.
social values, whereas morals are
So
for you as an individual, like you kind of decide those things.
Yeah, morality can be
Society.
individual or societal, right?
I think
Like,
ethics and
you have
societal
your
morals are
morality or
individual.
society, there is like an agreed
That's what
upon.
I
Yes,
thought.
that is
Yeah,
here we are bringing
You
everything
cannot
from, so
agree
just-
with the society you are
I
in.
think this is
That's
the takeaway.
exactly the way society develops itself. Because if we all think the same, there will
I have
never
a
be
question
change.
to you. Can I ask you a question? Do you you're Italian, right? You grew up where?
And just kidding.
Tuscany, okay. In Tuscany, based on a little to a lot that I know about human
Yeah, don't worry.
societies, they have their own cultural acceptances of what's right or wrong as a collective generalizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps, maybe not you, but maybe your cousin that's gay,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, that he does not agree with the Catholic beliefs of like you can't be gay because you're wrong, you're gonna go to hell.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that could be as a cultural, collective, ethical, or perhaps moral, we'll agree on that in a second, that could be right or wrong, right? But then he, like your gay cousin, will be like, no, like in my essence, if I really pay attention to me and fight all against this constructed of decades and decades of like this being wrong, that's his own essence, his own value, right? So that's where we're trying to get the definition of like what is moral and what is ethics, not just to like make it up, but just to have like a baseline for us to continue with this whole collective conversation.
I'm also more aligned with your definition.
But would we also be able
Also,
to
you're
just like
asking a very
Can I
difficult
answer the
question
question?
that I don't
Yeah.
think we can just figure out in 5 minutes.
Well, we could all agree.
Well, he has the strongest
but-
counter argument, so I think we should
I
listen
mean,
Yeah.
to him.
The thing is that is the reason why society has to accept my gay cousin and not like punish him in public ways and make him feel bad is because
I am your
if they do, there are thousands of years of people that feel guilty inside them when they discover to be gay. They feel guilty. That's inside of them. Not, and the moment they get free of that sense of guilty
Yeah.
is the moment that the value of being gay get rid of that label. It's not. It doesn't came from the inside. I think it came from the outside. The sense of guilt.
Like a group of people
A group of
questioning
questioning,
something, and then
And the idea of
Breaking
people
through that.
questioning the thing is came out as a change in values because a lot of people put it public. Otherwise, they will always, and they have actually been guilty for centuries.
So how do you link it back to morality versus ethics?
I don't think there is any difference.
I also don't think that. I think we just need to change morality.
What did
and
you say?
there should
You
be
don't what?
shouldn't be different words then.
Exactly,
I
just
think
different
there's a
words.
distinction. We just
It's just
not
pick one.
prepared to understand it, and we can.
And it might not be super important for the
Yeah.
aspect of
No,
practicality.
I really believe it is.
Yeah, I
I
also-
know.
You should give your explanation of
Yeah,
like
and
we try to.
I'm really happy,
we go
content
with
to
you.
like not like I accept that maybe my definition will be different than all of you, and we can continue with a conversation.
Yeah.
But individually, I really find value in like the distinguish of it. But
Yeah.
Well, what's the distinction that you have for it?
what I've mentioned before, like one thing is
I was
the
outside.
accepted collective, and one thing is the individual values that you constructed based on your life experience. So.
Yeah, because you could live in a society where you're like persecuted for being gay, but be completely not guilty about it and be like, these are my morals.
Yeah.
But like they're different. One is ethics, one is morality.
But
one is like this is what I believe, and ethics is like what
guilt
society
came
tells.
from-
No, but I have no guilt. Like I have no guilt for that thing, whatever it is.
But then
Like,
what
if I'm
you
gay in
get
that
Guilty,
society-
that's
Sorry,
society.
you were saying
Sorry.
what?
Yeah, couldn't you just interchange like personal morals with societal morals? Like,
That's what I wanted.
That's absolutely like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Perfect.
easy.
Okay, that's why nobody
I
gets
solved the problem. I solved the problem, guys. So I'd like to hear what Jake
Thank
has
you.
to
Where
say.
were
about
you?
this. Yeah, I was outside. Your brain.
Not to throw fuel on the fire, but you could also say personal ethics versus society.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's kind of, you know,
That's why
like.
you
But
say
we're
it's
gonna
the
stick
same,
to personal for this discussion or society?
No,
We're gonna
no. Mostly we can talk about personal and societal, but because it's for practicality purposes. I mean, if you want to swap out morality with ethics,
Yeah.
I'm cool with.
No, I'm.
Let's just
You
use
know,
the
I
word
don't mind
personal
what
and societal morals because it's
Yeah.
going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Easier.
Well, hey guys, I'm Jake. I'm not exactly what morality is anymore. But yeah, this is my first time here. Thank you for having me. I've been in Ply for about a year, and I think I have not really examined most of the aspects of morality, what you guys are talking about. So just for me specifically, the narrow, I guess like pillar of morality that I have specifically found interesting is how morality, I feel, reflects a lot of human survival, like tracing back to evolutionary biology, the behaviors that human beings inherently found advantageous to our survival and reproduction. And so I think it's pretty useful to use that in a business sense, where if you are able to understand the behaviors that you can employ that human beings innately find attractive because it produces it enhances our ability to survive and thrive, and I guess there are things that I haven't even thought about, like killing babies that aren't necessarily physically adept to fight. Like I don't know, I haven't examined that, but I think as a whole, I think it's applicable in the business world, and entrepreneurial world, and friendship world, and really just everything. If you understand the basic human behaviors that we consider right, where it enhances our ability to survive and reproduce, and wrong when it doesn't. And I think that's probably 20% of morality as a whole, but that's kind of the section that I've found interesting.
Awesome. Love it.
So would you say that's like bringing morality based on our human species?
Yeah, so I think I lean way too far into the whole evolutionary biology view of it, but in how I view it, a lot of what we view as moral behavior stems from whether or not that's going to hurt that person, who then goes back and hurts their family, which then hurts the collective tribe, versus helping that person, which helps their family, which helps the tribe.
And touching on that, this is something that I've been exploring a lot recently in terms of like all these different like individual morality, societal morality, and then we can even go to like evolutionary morality. Like I for a while, like evolutionarily, I can make an argument that it's okay for a guy to cheat on his girlfriend, right? Because it's like, well, like evolutionarily, I'm supposed to just come in as many girls as possible and have a bunch of offspring.
That's what it's in your species.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But then
It is. It really is.
yeah, and then from that aspect, it's like, I'm not morally doing anything wrong, but on the individual level and even on the societal level too, like I'm hurting this other person, then society also considers me to be an asshole. So
Yeah,
it's
because
sort
it's
of
the social morality, right? Like collective acceptance of like, oh no, if you cheat on your wife, that's wrong. Where in your species, it's like, no, like men can reproduce different women, and it's okay. Like if you go back to what you mentioned, tribe, right? Like our history of like
You
being
don't have to
tribal.
forget a thing about evolution. Our biggest leap in evolution as a species is when we get together.
Sorry.
That we can get together. The only real things that make us stand up within all the other species on Earth is that we can group in of individuals bigger than 40. No other species in the world can make organization of 80 people, single individuals together doing the same things and organizing their society. Doing this is what make us special in an evolutionary thing. So what's good for evolution is not what is good for the single reproduction of one single individual, but what is good for the biggest group this individual is part of. This is very super well explained in *Sapiens*. I suggest to everyone to read this book. I love it.
Everyone read Sapiens.
Totally, what you were saying is like.
I'm not sure about your example because humans have offspring for like at least 10, 16 years, right? And so if you go and have a bunch of sex with a bunch of girls, like you leave them as women, then if they have to raise that child alone, let's say, then it's like, as a species, to go back to your point, as a species, we're gonna just have a bunch of babies that just aren't surviving because we need to be, or it's easier for your offspring to survive to maturity if you're pairing as a couple to help each
That's the
other.
thing.
So I think that like in that instance, it's it takes a tribe to raise, or it takes a village to raise a kid, right? Whereas you see a lot of these older societies, they're polygamous, polygamous because they don't know whose kid's who, so they're like, I'm just gonna take care of all of us are gonna take care of all these kids. But I think, to your point, as society evolves and as humans evolve and as the world we live in evolves, does that also necessitate the need for our moral codes to evolve? Where if I agree with my partner that we're not going to do that, and then I go and do it, is that morally wrong of me? Where evolutionarily it may not be, but in an individual and even societal view, have we evolved to that point where it's like we need to slightly tweak our moral code?
Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing with cheating, I think, is that you made an agreement with that person. It's not even about morals, it's like, are you honest with your partner or not? Like, you cannot really have a relationship with someone if you're like cheating on them, lying to them, being dishonest. Like, it's just as simple as that. It's not even about morals.
I will take it further to why is honesty important. Because we're assuming that honesty is important, but I think speaking exactly, I think the purpose of philosophy is questioning that kind of thing, so we can experientially understand and develop wisdom. So
I would say it's important because trust is kind of everything. Like I trust all you guys to not have a gun on you and kill us all,
It comes
right?
back to being in the
So
right?
I don't know.
Trust that,
I'm
like,
trusting,
thinking
right?
You're not gonna kill you, right? Like.
So then, that's kind of where it comes down to, like honesty. Honesty. That's what we're talking about, right? I think I think just being honest is probably like the key factor. So if you do want to go like have a bunch of partners, you should just let people know that,
And integrity, what about like, it's also very individual, because I went through a stage where I literally went to therapy to like heal manipulation, because I became aware that, oh shit, like I'm actually manipulating people and I'm not doing it for the bestest reasons or with integrity. Maybe I'm doing it because I want to achieve something or gain something, and if it's from fear, it's coming from fear of like not achieving this or not having that. So I used to like transform my words, etc., so I could gain something without being like honest with myself and with them. And sometimes you really need to speak in like very like raw words, like, no, I don't want to, but thank you, or oh, I'm gonna put my headphones in because I just need to work, but I love you and I respect that. I mean, I love you, and they know that, right? So yeah, it's very individual as well. I believe I believe that everything comes from inside out. So that's kind of like my compass with life, my morality, my individual morality is like everything I decide, from like what I say to my friend to what I decide to where to go next, is like, wait, does this come from fear or from love? Does this come from manipulation, or does this come from like, no, you know what, I don't want to do that, and that's okay, and like have that tough conversation, you know. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, for me, honesty and values comes to how good can I team play with you. And because we are very tribal species, you know, like Giacomo said, we are organizational species. And the fact that I can trust you means that I can make alliances with you, that we can work together, and I know that I don't need to take care of myself when I'm with you, you know, that I can relax, that I can thrive, that I can be creative. So for me, that is the importance of community building, is like the community like ethics, you know, like how can we behave in a way that we can relax and we're not in fear mode all the time because we need to rely on ourselves all the time, you know?
Yeah.
How we can share resources, how we can trust each other, how we can cooperate to enhance each other's capabilities. So I think for me, morals comes down to that, like how can we create this system of agreements that allow us to cooperate and thrive as a tribe.
And as individuals too. I know I keep saying that. I'm sorry if I sound like a very, very repetitive.
So it was pretty much just like my original thought was just like how can we use morality in like a practical sense, you know?
Yeah, talking about what Monica was saying, I think it's good for the community, but it's also good in a selfish way for yourself, because honesty, I mean, and morals in general, you know, because if you are honest with others, like at the beginning maybe you can get away, if you're not honest you can get away with something here and there, but at the end like people are gonna pick on that, and they are not going to trust you as much, you know. So everything comes to bite you in the ass at the end, like it's the whole thing of like karma, you know, whether you do on it or not, but like you will get something back in return. So being honest, even selfishly, because some people are like, oh well, like, if I want to lie, but even selfishly, it's good, you know, like self-love everything.
But that being said, so we're pretty much all in agreement that like honesty and morality is good, but then why are there people who act selfishly and unmorally, like they lie, they cheat, they steal?
Do you think morality needs to be learned by parents? Do you think morality needs to be learned? Do you think it could be that people didn't have example of right or wrong, or
no? I think there are fields of life
it's genetic
where
environmental.
not it's we have rules out of personal relationship to punish not being honest, because not being honest, you get a reward. If you cheat on a contract, you get rewarded. You earn money.
I think it's about short-term, long-term thinking.
It's a lot more not what do I not say? It's just a lot more complex. I think it's a lot more complex.
Can I say something on what you both three of you mentioned? I truly believe it's like the difference between people that really achieve it or that achieve stuff in general, just in life, not even like being integrity with their life or achieve their business growth, etc. It's like the mass majority of humanity is not willing to sit with discomfort, and that links back to these things as well. Like when you find yourself, like when you're a kid, you're hurt, right? You get hurt because you, by your essence, you said something that it was you, but then they bullied you, so then you cover that up. So then you create this habit of fear. You create this like manipulating something different you're not because of fear. But then when you become aware, when you gain more awareness, when you're like more an adult after being a teenager, etc., we're just, some people we think we're too late at the stage of like, no, like now if I come back to my essence and I speak my truth, it's so much discomfort, so much fucking discomfort of like being laughed at, being like having to curate friends out of your life, you know, certain clients not wanting to work with you, etc. So much fear on that. And the people that really are able to achieve, like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit with this, I'm gonna speak my truth, I'm gonna like sit down with the uncomfortable silence, I'm gonna tell my best friend that I don't wanna go partying with her, and that's okay. And it's just really uncomfortable, and most of us are not willing to go through that.
But is that really morality though? More so, it's kind of just like fear of rejection, fear of things, and like overcoming that.
I truly believe that links back to your moral. Yeah.
So when I was in philosophy class in high school, like there was also always, you know, like a thesis, antithesis. And so to go back to the question of like dishonesty or honesty, I know we are all kind of similar values, you know, but I like to get myself out of my shoes and put myself like, if you're like a head of a cartel, for example, you're gonna want someone who is dishonest or someone who doesn't, because they need to do a job that anybody who is honest or with high moral value.
Head of a what you said?
Cartel.
Like, you know, somebody, you want to rob a bank, who are you going to take? I mean, yeah, I know. It's like, you're going to want to have somebody honest to you, but you got to have a guy who's
That's kind of
honest.
where the gang codes come in. Like, there's codes. Like, you don't rat on someone. So, like, if you're in the Chicago drill scene, which I somehow push this into every conversation. Like, if you, yeah, it was time. But yeah, so like, if you are like, yeah, like if you're in a gang, you don't like. There's like societal morality that says don't kill people. But if you're in a gang and this guy like knocks a drink out of your hand, you like your gang says like you should probably go kill him. But the rules are the morality of your group is if you get caught, you don't say anything.
Yeah.
You don't say anything.
Yeah.
So then you want people like that, but they're still like they're moral within their little society.
And they will think that saying nothing if you get caught is the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's their collective moral.
That's their collective moral.
Not the
Yeah.
individual.
I don't know because it's
But then
like
it
your
kind of
personal. Sorry,
it bleeds in. Yeah.
is your personal morals not about what's best for your community, and it's like sort of apart from what's best for you, and that's I wouldn't say that's necessarily a societal morality. I think that's a personal morality to make that decision.
I think it depends on what community.
Yeah.
Like your morals could not align with like society as a whole, but maybe a small, tiny community they will be very aligned.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess to be accepted by your community, you gotta be aligned with the community. Otherwise, you're by definition not really accepted, and you're gonna get kicked out.
I mean, I would say being in a cartel, almost in any position, it's immoral by itself. You know, just because of what you are doing, like.
No, because we were talking about how you feel, how you feel inside.
You're not doing something good for the world, you know, like.
But maybe they're doing good for their family. They're doing something good for their family, or you know, for.
But this comes back to
They
are
are
they
like
doing it
destroying
from
more things than
fear?
they are getting, almost. You know, like you can do that in a clean way. Like go walk.
But a lot of people don't have
What's the
that.
difference
that,
between
like,
killing a people in a war that you do not agree
Yeah.
and killing a people by narco? What's the difference? From a military?
Killing people is
In
bad,
what way? From
regardless.
an army and a soldier? And
Yeah,
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, both are bad. Both are
I
negative.
don't agree with that at all.
Both are negative.
I really
Like-
believe it comes
Yeah,
back
but
to
again,
Both
like
of them.
go back to is it okay to kill someone if they are going to kill your wife? Like, I mean, I know it's.
yeah.
You see what I mean? It's like when we go like.
That's moral.
That's very different.
That's where
That's
moral.
It is
Different
different.
shoes.
It's
Different shoes.
extreme. Moral
would you kill your
came
wife?
out in extreme
Of course not.
situation. Basically. Because it's easy to say, I will never harm any one of you.
There's exceptions to every rule, I think.
And,
Life
and
is an
moral is
exception.
what define moral. It's what you do
It's always
in
exception,
the,
Everything is
at the moment you have to
dependent.
decide between a value, what's wrong, and what's right. You have to put political.
What if somebody rapes someone? Is that okay to kill them?
Exactly. It's
That's kind of what we were discussing today. Like
There
the
is
people
That was
who
the
like.
death penalty in the US. I mean, it's
When
still
you
is,
get-
so it's like, you know.
moral
Yeah, that's a
is when
US
you
law.
What I mean is
choose a
like-
value above another.
Yeah.
That's why it's a system of value. It's not what is wrong and it's right. Because what is wrong in that situation compared with the other values that you have around that value. Life over punishment, for example. Stealing over your own reaching your own goals. It's like
Well, this is very, yeah.
it's very complex.
Okay.
There is no I don't think there is like an easy solution.
Yeah, I feel like this is where it comes down to like, are ethics or morals based on principle or based on logic? Because if it's principle, then it's always bad to lie. But what if you need to lie to save someone? Well, then it's not based on principle anymore. It's based on logic. because in that instance, the logic would bring you to conclude it's okay to lie. So
Kant would say
Yeah.
it's okay to lie.
Like, we agree now
Kant would
that,
say it's okay to lie, but
like,
that
like you
depends.
said, like, why do, even though we know that that's a good or bad thing, like, why do people choose to do the bad, right? Like,
What's
maybe
bad?
they-
Is it bad for them?
What's bad?
Yeah, we need to
Is it
define
bad
What's
for them?
bad?
Pathological
What's that?
situation.
The definition of bad, it's on the table.
it's the
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a,
yeah, yeah.
that's a
And I
long
think it's
discussion.
different by everybody, because when you were saying like it's bad because you feel it inside, I would say like the guy who was in a cartel and killing someone, did he feel bad? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, some people are also wired to just feel
Yeah.
nothing.
Also, yeah.
Or maybe he does feel bad, but based on his,
Systemic
value
logic,
system
yeah.
or his logic, he says, well,
Yeah.
there's more good that comes from this action than
Yeah.
from not
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
think that's
Because I can feed my family and protect people and
Yeah.
stay in my social system, etc., and that's worth feeling bad.
Yeah. Which, going back to what I said at the beginning, that's why for me, after my seeking, the Buddhist compass is the most sophisticated I've found so far, because it's not about what's good and bad, but what it's constructive or destructive, what it's leading to harmony, beauty, justice, or what it's leading to degradation, chaos, and so on.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
But
And
why
that goes
don't
with the
certain
cartel, and that goes
people-
with everything.
but why do certain people choose that side versus the other side?
Because of ignorance. That's the
Ignorance.
whole like.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like
They
so
basically made
when
a
I was
bad
in Bali, I was really interested by the concept of light and dark. Because I would see some stuff that is really hard, and I would be like, with my mentor, I would be like, how can that happen? La la la. And she was like, you just have to understand there are some people who are more into the light, and there are some people who are going to work in the dark side. And it's like in entrepreneurship, actually, there's a whole current about that you can see. I'm not in that one, so I don't know exactly, but it's like you can see people in the entrepreneurship having very dark website, dark events, some like I don't know if it's sadism or something, but like dark ritual, etc. And like dishonest, etc. Practice that are dishonest by my standard,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, we're like in the music industry or entertainment industry, but I wonder, because that was something that I'm like, okay, can that explain the two difference in morality, like in two camps? I've worked with clients that ethically, it was a nightmare for me, and I couldn't understand that someone would do this. And I'm like, okay, I just have to accept that for some people work for dark forces or whatever you want, and they're okay with doing that.
But
I don't
I'm
know.
not
how
going
do you
to go further.
wait one
I
second?
even friends who work
How do you
taxes.
decide,
Nah, I was
guys?
gonna say,
One
you have to
second.
accept.
How do you decide that this is something dark or this is something light? Because that could be dark for you, but for that person it might be completely different.
I have no idea, I'm not on the
Well,
other
it's
side, but
what
yeah, I
Monica
agree
was
with you.
saying about
That's
I
the
just
point.
know.
That's what I was saying
That's what
also.
she's saying about Buddhism.
Yeah.
Like, if you do good things, quote unquote, we didn't agree was good, but like nice things, you will get good things in life. This is like you have to explore this. If you do bad things, narcos, whatever, eventually how do we end up? Jail, killed, everything always, right?
But
They have a
we're
conditioned
lifetime.
for 4 years, and
Yeah.
that's it.
we believe that these
So-
things might be right, but like what's it to say for that person? It might actually be the best thing that they could do for their life.
Yeah, we mentioned.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think so.
it may potentially be
people,
selfless.
That's the best.
No,
For
'cause
him,
you don't-
he's being selfish.
You don't know like what this person's
When you
been
have
through.
a gun pointed
so-
at your head,
Their life experiences
save
are not the
yourself,
same as
just
yours.
kill
So
them.
like, how can you say
So
that?
for
different.
example, if I
That's
say
different
I am
than
in the
real
light,
That's killing.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know. I mean, I suppose,
It's
right?
like the
I might be doing-
Maybe his sister and his mother got
Who
raped,
decided
and
exactly
like
Yeah.
there is something
It's a
dark in
different
this person. Like
What?
you don't know,
Who
like
But we can
decided
get lots of
when you're
examples, but
accept-
That's
overall, in
individual.
the bigger
That's
spectrum
like
of
from
things,
your
like
own, like
Yeah, like
whatever.
I
Like, we
really
kinda
love
like
what
have
you
papers
mentioned.
and
Like
everything, right?
even
No,
though
but
there's
it's
this,
I think there is
that we
like
are
section
aware that yes, you can do
is
right and this is right. Why do
definition of this.
people choose to do the wrong? And yeah, like what Moni mentioned is the ignorance. So I do truly believe in that because I know that a lot of the disorders in humanity has a lot to do with knowing and not knowing that something actually even exists. Like the awareness of what an emotion versus a thought versus feelings are, or awareness of like tools to cope with different things like practices like, breath work, etc. I know I went through that because if we give ourselves an example, like what you said, like for me, I truly don't know, or I think you know what's right or wrong, but in the past, what I feel is right today, in the past, based on what I did not know, again, ignorance, I thought it was right. I thought that what I was doing with, for example, a Latina, right? We love to go to bars and have guys buy us the beer. And that is socially accepted because between us Latinas, even guys are like really happy to get you drunk, and that's like everybody's happy, right? But then you go to other places and then you see like how they're not paying the beer, and you're like, what the fuck, right? Like, yeah, you get upset, and then like, and now I'm like, wait, Angie, like this came from your own ignorance. This came from your own collective acceptance of what was morally right? And now I'm like, no, like you don't just go and manipulate a guy just to like buy you something because you're fearful of like spending your money on that beer, right? And that conception of it did definitely change for me over this last few years, but it's like one of the biggest examples I had in my own personal journey where I identify like, oh, I see what's happening here. The awareness of it is the opposite of ignorance, right? So I think like the lack of awareness of what, and this is where it gets really fucking complicated because what is right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
But
It
then,
depends what you believe.
And they
It depends.
take back
That's the definition of morality. What's wrong, what's right.
Yeah.
but then
It adds to
so
that.
mostly it's just sort of
It's
like
interesting.
societal norm is you used to let guys buy you drinks, and then you're kind of put into this other situation where that's not normal. It's like morally
Yeah,
it's not
different
a
country,
thing. Yeah.
different.
So then it's kind of not even really a choice. I guess it's mostly like one of the things that we could do is just be more open. Like if someone does fuck you over, just say like morally they don't know, they're ignorant, you know.
Oh, somebody got locked inside.
They'll figure it out. Hey.
What did I miss?
We were worried that you got locked in.
Somebody that goes inside.
We know you got locked inside the
Are we
bathroom.
doing Ouija or what?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We're gonna summon some spirits now.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, so pretty
From
much
God's side.
morals are changeable
Yeah.
constantly, right? And I think it's a good thing because they are like on a sliding scale, right? Like if we just killed people for being Muslim and like in the Middle Ages, you know, it's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know, we're still doing this. So it's like a good thing that morals change over time. And yeah, just kind of like Moni said, like being introduced to new things, and then you can take and leave what resonates with you, and then like you kind of shape that into like your own personal morality. But I think it's also important to realize that a lot of people don't think the same way that you think, you know. And like we're at a philosophy meetup, you know, we've probably done some work.
What
You know,
about-
most people probably
It's
have.
also like, I mean, when you're cheating for like a test, that's fine. But when you're cheating like with your partner, that's not fine. But it's still cheating.
It's all relative.
Oh, they're cheating yourself.
We're going back to the same
But like you want to get good grades. You're cheating to
Yeah,
get
but you're
good
cheating
grades.
yourself in that you kind of like
Yeah.
are like cheating yourself
And
out of knowledge.
that dominance
You're trying to take
affects
your
on other
shortcuts, and
scenarios.
then in the long term, that kind of
For
doesn't
my
really
mom
work
was a
out.
teacher, it wasn't okay to cheat on a test. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
There was no go.
First of all, why do you think that? No.
Can I say
Cheating in a test or what?
For me, to be able to
Just a joke.
to feel what's right or wrong is whatever takes my peace and puts me into a state of depression, anxiety, stress, is where I believe to know that's right or wrong.
But you might have a challenge to go through and have to put yourself under pressure to grow.
Yeah, I'd like to push back on that as well. Like today, I made a video against pretty much some COVID stuff. We're gonna make a bingo card as well for the next one. So like every time someone brings up like a comment.
I said when you brought up Chicago's
like
real
COVID
rough
party?
and COVID, I had to say bingo.
Yeah. So pretty much it's like there's this crazy stuff going on with COVID in Canada right now, right? And so I made this video today because I was thinking about it. I was like, all right, I gotta make the video. Like I was thinking about it, I have to make it. Put it out on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and then I sat there and like I just felt like anxiety wash over me because I'm like, fuck, like I did this thing that's uncomfortable because now like my cousin who hates me, my aunts who hate me because of my views on these things, they're gonna come after me. But morally, I think it's my responsibility. If I see something wrong, I need to step up and say, I think that's wrong. and it's incredibly uncomfortable, and it's like pretty much torn my family apart.
It's tricky, yeah. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, I think like if you see someone
No, but
robbing
it's a
someone, for
good
example,
way.
and
At
you-
certain point, you felt good about doing it. Probably.
No, I'm pretty over feeling good about it. I'm just like at this point it's just like,
No, but before doing it, probably you
feels
felt good.
relief.
You felt some like.
I felt like the
I'm not
injustice
saying that
happening. Yeah.
it's 100% true that in your gut it's like in every situation there is a lot of gray area.
Mhm.
But probably you have felt like
Yeah.
But
I feel good to do it.
can we talk about it though? Like,
Talk about it.
talk about it. Talk about the fact that we could, as a philosophical table, try to ask ourselves, what is that we can pay attention to that allows us to know when things are right or wrong. I mean, I'm not saying there is.
That would be a great discussion.
That would be
yeah.
a great
It's very
discussion.
complicated,
Now that
but-
we already kind of like
Yeah.
narrow down the ground of like, okay, what's morality and where it manifests in society. Now, we
What's
can
your
start
question about-
individually
yeah.
and then maybe even collectively find like, okay, maybe this is this question or these practices that you can do to find, right? So that's why I was thinking about the anxiety. I know for me, that's what I do. But
I think doing the right thing is not always easy though. Like,
they're not sitting with discomfort, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like people are not willing to go through that for others.
What is a philosophical question we want to address in the meetup about morality?
did you have questions? You
Yeah.
I wrote a bunch of stuff, but yeah, pretty much one of the things that I think, based on where we're at, I think it might be a good idea to actually like come up with like a set of like moral principles that like we can kind of
Okay.
come to terms with, you know,
We could,
that we
yeah.
think
Yeah,
that could potentially work, with the understanding
the
that there's
common ground.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is in the understanding that there is always also going to be
Exceptions to the
exceptions to the
Yeah.
rule. So
Always.
that sometimes at school that murder someone, like there's and I jumped to that solution quicker than the average person actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, for me personally, because I feel like I've heard a lot of people say differently today in various aspects, but I would generally go by the code that my morals are based on what is better for the community, better for the society that I'm in, better for the group that I'm around, rather than my own personal gain.
Was community for you the whole world or like
No.
the country?
Well,
your
I
friends?
mean that changes, yeah. But generally, like, it's my friends, my family, the people around.
And
me.
over your personal gain or over your own happiness?
Generally, yeah, actually.
So you put people first, basically. in other words.
That's the kind of person
So
I am.
you said like based on your friends and family, that's basically what Pablo Escobar was doing, right? Like he did everything for his family and his friends.
So that's a good, that's a really good argument because I wouldn't agree.
Yeah.
But that's against my morals what he did.
Yeah.
Maybe
for me,
it
we
was
should do
probably
it
within
for
his
everybody in this
Yeah.
world. Like
Yeah, no,
include
that's fair.
sentient beings if we can.
No,
Yeah, probably
Yeah,
like
I
to
would agree on
get
that.
macro principles first, because
Yeah.
micro
It's focusing only on the
Okay,
family.
so we're talking
I
macro.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, does everybody agree that you shouldn't kill someone? Is that like that could be a good one to start with?
In general.
Just thinking about that because the Pablo Escobar.
There's one guy that's fucking hate.
There's this guy next door.
These guys are undated.
What? No, sorry.
Talking
Yeah,
about,
we're in Mexico.
talking about chance, you know.
That's the thing.
No,
though,
no,
like-
but wait, let me.
Well, okay, so let's say your moral code, if we were to codify it, is what is best for the community. Do that thing, right? Would the community be better if Pablo Escobar was dead? Possibly yes. So
Okay,
does
yeah.
that mean you murder him?
Maybe I support that, but no, I don't know if I personally
I have
do
an
it.
idea
That's
what
maybe
I
where
was
my-
in
But wouldn't it be better if he was dead?
It probably would be, but also
Well, maybe not for all his
that would
families that
conflict
work
with-
for him. You know, it's kind of
But
a.
for the greater community,
You know, churros and people or something, you know. Like,
Well, then you have to think it's
So-
like if you kill someone and then there is chaos, and that's why some dictators are in some countries because it's better to have them than to have more chaos. Yeah.
What is the idea?
So the idea that I had in the bathroom is that we as collective are experiencing the effects of our level of consciousness, basically. So as we go through as a collective, we're understanding the effects of narco traffic, and in the 40s probably we understood the effects of hatred, whole race, and then this murdering, because a lot of things has been done in the name of right, you know? A lot of bad things
Everything, I would say.
like destructive things,
Yeah.
I mean, has been done in the name of right. So I think as a collective and as an individual, our duty is to integrate all those experiences so we understand the lessons, we upgrade our thought work, and we're able to make new mistakes. We'll never be perfect beings or a perfect society, but I think it's good to aim to learn from the past in order to maybe produce more harmony, and maybe the goal is not to create a whole world based on like harmony and beauty, but to balance, you know, the opposite forces are meant to play together, and as we experience them, we learn and we grow, and maybe that's the whole purpose of it. And coming back to a conclusion, I think it's very important, and that again in Hinduism and in Buddhism, the first thing that starts the moral path is the right view, is the understanding that you, first of all, are like a cosmic being, you know? Your individual being, it's the secondary thing. Like you're a being intertwined with the whole system of life. And if you're able to integrate and accept and experience that, then your actions will reflect that without thinking too much, you know? You won't damage the other person just because you deeply understand that you're related to that person, and that we live in this spherical like system where everything reverberates back. So if you put something constructive, that will come back. If you put something destructive, that will come back.
So, is it bad to kill someone?
It's not bad or good. You will learn the seed of your action.
Well, and
No, I actually really just want to know, like, if it's
Yeah.
Like a
But my
Because
whole
we have
view,
different, then it's not that.
It's
My
good.
God.
It's good if you eat it.
no, but in Buddhism, but you're gonna eat it.
next level?
You
If
make
it's
food.
a
What
survival.
are your prompts? What are your questions? What are we narrowing them down?
Okay.
We keep losing ourselves in
I'm
examples.
really not that attached to.
That's the way that they go, and I'm
It's bad.
But what if
killing or
they
it's
kill
not
somebody
bad.
like
I'm
this?
very.
I'm not a very
Let's bring you. I'm a total relativist about this, so it's up to you.
It's just a question, right?
But there was
It's
something about
It's up to you.
circumstances.
If you feel comfortable
I
with
would
that,
like to share something.
They also
if you feel
have a
comfortable with
feeling
that, you
it's
feel
trauma.
free. It will bring
That it's one.
better than
There are
the
like trials that are happening where, you know, some kid kills some other kid and their family wants him to go to prison or
The naturality of the
I mean, I
conversation.
gave you my opinion. You know,
So there's
not
no
the
attached to a
ultimate
single
judge of
life, but more
Okay, I'll be the.
You don't have to.
That's a
I'm
good
the
for
judge.
me. It remains
I
open.
I think what you were saying now, creating the morals is a good idea.
What's that?
I'm totally
Create the
relativist.
morals.
Yeah, Virgil's
excited for that,
Virgil's chit
We have one
chatting down
established.
right now. Yeah.
All right, Virgo.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like some like level of structure.
I can share my own limits, for example.
Okay, we'll get to that as well. So what we have so far is morality can be divided into individual and personal morals. Then we all seem to agree that it was based on what is best for the community. Is everybody more or less in agreement with that?
You said individual and collective.
But then, like,
Sorry, individual and societal, I should
Yeah.
say.
But then, yeah, we can pretty much all agree that what is best for the community is correct, but where we would differ is, like, we all have an individual view on what constitutes a community, right?
Yeah.
Like, some
Yeah.
of us would say world being, some of us would say, like, in our gang.
Let's discuss that.
Yeah,
Why
I think-
people are saying
I think
gang?
it's-
Why is gang better on the world?
I think it's a balance between what's good for
Like a
community and
macro-
yourself.
Because if we do an individual, we'll be here all day because there's many communities.
Yeah.
I think, as she said, on like a cosmic level or like a macro level, whatever the biggest macro level is, would probably be the best way to approach this. Because otherwise, we're going to find an exception.
But if we talk about like macro on like a cosmic scale, like probably the right answer is just to nuke humanity and let fucking nature go.
Sure. So I said morality can be divided into individual and societal morals. We all seem to be in agreement on that.
And then
we all agreed upon what is best for the community. The big question is what communities. We're just going to talk in a macro.
I would say what is best is a mix, like an individual perception of what's best for the community and themselves. And that depends too. For example, you have a lot of weight in the community balance.
Yeah.
Somebody else could be like, oh, okay, well, I'm ready to do for the community, but I have also more weight in my balance.
That doesn't mean I don't make personal decisions, of course,
Yeah,
but like generally I would.
You prioritize the community. I may be prioritizing more myself in my stage in life, and so it's like that. I think it's.
There's no distinction between individual and community because at that cosmic level is like it's the same, If you're better in yourself, you're better in your community, and if you're better in your community, you're better in yourself.
That's what I agree.
Yeah. I think before helping others, you have to help yourself as well.
To be full
That's number
for you
one.
to be able to, because that's, if I may say, that's my philosophy of life. Is like for me to make my life and the life of the people around me, and then eventually it will domino effect. Is like I have to be centered. I want to be centered. I want to be happy. I want to be glowing. I want to be healthy, wealthy, to be able to give to others. So this is kind of where I believe maybe perhaps me and you are kind of like opposites, right? Where my ideology of life, the philosophy of life is like, I really believe I want to be centered to be able to give to others, but then sometimes that can also go out of hand for me.
Yeah, no, I do take your point for
No,
sure.
but sometimes I do perhaps go into, we talked about it before, of being more into my own needs versus others, so it's just, I don't know.
What was your counter argument to her argument?
No, it wasn't
there was no counter argument. It was just an agreement that yes, like I do agree. Maybe sometimes I go a little bit
There are
too far
different
as
point
well.
of view on, as she said, is balance. Between what you have
It could be 60-40, it could be
able,
70-40.
available to do
Everybody's
for others, sacrifice. Because if you do what we are forgetting maybe it's that if you do something for yourself, sometimes you have to sacrifice the community. And if you do something for the community, you have to sacrifice yourself. It's not that you can do both.
It's like the tragedy of the commons.
And one of the things that people talk about too, they're like, why aren't you worried more about like famine in Africa or like race relations in America and all this shit? And it's like, bro, like I just gotta, like I'm making $12 an hour, like I need to fucking like, I just need to clean my room first.
You and then others.
Yeah,
Because
which is where I like Jordan Peterson's.
she believes it's different.
No. So I think you guys are taking this way too far. Like I don't.
No, but with no judgment. No judgment. It doesn't come from judgment. It's actually like, it's interesting to see how personalities are different,
What I was about to say there was that I think that's why talking about this at a macro level is actually quite complicated, particularly when you're trying to bring in practical philosophy, and that's why I think discussing morality at a sort of more personal, like friends, family, community level is actually more practical. But I think
I agree with
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Okay, I actually see your point of view as well.
Yeah.
I guess we can explore kind of both ends, but we kind of need to define some things we will discuss because otherwise it's gonna like go everywhere.
Which
and we
is
get
so
lost.
fine, right?
Do you have anything else?
Anyway.
Yeah, so
I don't.
well, I mean, we gotta
That's
take
my
something
personality.
practical and tangible away from this. Otherwise, we just have a crazy conversation. Another thing, I think a lot of us seem to agree on was that we can all morals have at least some exceptions to them. Or do we not agree on that? Is everybody agree?
I agree with that.
Okay, cool.
One of my favorite phrases is "it all depends." It really does.
Isn't it interesting though then on that, like, so not all religions, obviously you guys have spoken a lot about Buddhism and yes, I agree, but there are a lot of religions, for example I grew up in a Catholic household and a lot of religions are based on absolute rules, whereas religions are actually supposed to be born out of, we think religions are born out of morality, however religions aren't really changing with that.
Made by humans.
So I don't know, it's just an interesting point that we're all in agreement that morality isn't absolute, whereas in a lot of religions.
I guess that would just be like when the religions were invented, they had these morals, but then they never.
Yeah.
They never made the distinction that all these morals are also going to change. So then, like, you see something in the Bible, you're like, gay people are bad. Like crabs, eating crabs is bad. It's like wait.
That's it.
You know, like maybe back in the day that was like the
outdated,
moral,
yeah.
but like
That's a good point.
morals are
That's a
constantly
great point.
changing.
I've never even thought of
Religion
that.
doesn't evolve. Well, obviously, it sounds like Buddhism is quite open, and from what I'm familiar with, it
No
is.
maintenance on that.
But yeah, religions aren't evolving, even though they're supposed to be based on morality.
Mm-hmm.
They're too lazy.
Yeah.
They have to go.
And too egoic
You
as
know,
well.
I was
Too
Too
egoic.
much work.
like when I was going to museum here, you know, or like for the ancient civilization, I was always really wondering and fascinated by like how does someone, you know, like a little Mayan village or wherever you are in the US as well, etc. It's like how do they make an organization? And always there was like the military to use force against people, and there was the religion, and the religion was based on we are going to give you more moral stuff, and we are going to also make you fear something greater, like Zeus or whomever, you know. And it's really interesting because the point of religion, I'm like, it was just
Protection.
to go back to like, why was it created? You know, why did we create religion? Why did someone decide to create?
So that we could build a greater community
Yeah.
together.
I
It's
saw
about
there on
organizing and control.
I
for
think
me,
it's
organizing
about
and control.
finding a common ground. It's creating a common ground between a large number of people.
In other words, what
That's
Moni
it.
said
That's
about
it.
we
That's
need to
it.
balance
When the
both
larger the
dualities,
numbers,
I
the
think
more you need
The
to.
bigger the number
Yeah.
of individual you have to get together,
Yeah.
the deeper have to be the belief.
The different
We
diversity
believe
of
in
thoughts.
But you could
We
do that
believe
with
in
just
money.
military.
It's everything is a belief.
You could just do that with law and military. There is a law, and
It's
you're
a
gonna have
matter of
military to enforce. Why religion? Sorry.
Because if you
again.
have to gather people together, you have to create a common ground.
I have an insight on that. But
For
you
me.
go first. I saw a study, like an anthropological study from a guy that is very interesting, and I don't remember his name, but he was explaining how the private property created this new problem of trust. And so the theory is that we needed to develop this entity that was almighty, all watching, so we could fear that the fear of the afterlife and all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
comes down to behave and
Yeah.
and be reliant for others and not steal what it's not yours. So that makes kind of sense.
Yeah.
Another very important thing, as a community, the way we, as a species, the way we build our beliefs, that are the basic of us as a species, is through stories.
Yeah. Stories.
And the religion are nothing else than
Yeah.
stories well told.
Military wouldn't be enough because we will revolt.
Money.
Yeah.
It's spells.
So,
Stories
so
are
yeah,
so
that's
Greater fear of something greater that
You
you
need a
cannot
story.
do anything
Exactly.
about. Yeah.
as well too.
Everything's a story.
So like if you are ruling someone by force, then as soon as like
Yeah.
monkeys, for example, you know, like they have the alpha monkey, but the monkeys that can communicate better and gang up on that guy and rip him to
Are going
shreds,
to revolt.
then it's like they're gonna fuck him up.
Do it.
Like as soon as he's like underslept one day, as soon as
Yeah,
he gets a little
yeah,
bit old,
yeah.
he's done, right? So the same thing if you tried to rule by force. I'm sure there were many nations that did initially try that, and they all got taken out. Like Rome,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah, yeah,
was
Yeah.
they were like, hey, like let's go
Or
fuck this
taking
person
away
over there.
government and yeah.
So
It's
then,
also manipulation.
Mhm.
Like think about it. What you just mentioned right now. Like the in my beliefs, I don't know about you guys, but that's it. Like you can only achieve so much with physical force, but when you create a whole like. If you don't do right, Zeus or this god will come and kill you, and you're gonna suffer this amount of pain for the rest of your life. That is a spell of manipulation that you're just like controlling the masses, and that's where it
It's
starts.
manipulation.
Because you can only get this amount of soldiers for this amount of time, and then they die, and then what do? This genius is like, oh, I got an idea. Let's
We're
just
gonna
tell
say there's a
them.
guy in the center.
Let's just all tell them, and then like let's do all this little like scene of it, create a story, and that's what in Sapiens as well. Like I know you guys bring it up a lot. Like it just gifted me the awareness of like, oh yeah, like of course, like we're all.
I I realized that
vulnerable
because
in our.
when I went to a Buddhist temple, because I was doing like a Buddhist dance, and
I'm not a Buddhist.
no, but it's like
It's also
it was interesting because I really like Buddhism because of all of those
Me too. It's my favorite one.
philosophies, you know.
Yeah. If I was.
But then when I went in, I was really surprised because they were like, so the whole goal is to achieve nirvana. You need to collect the little panini cards. Sorry if anybody's Buddhist, but like you got to collect those cards of those gods, and there's the same rules. There are rules about how you should behave
Yeah.
to achieve
But
nirvana.
that's like everything, right? Like every religion,
yeah.
every religion starts with good intentions and with pure intentions, and then it gets distorted, you know? Like Buddhism is the same, but there is good Buddhist temples, I'm sure, that people are like legit and they really do their meditation and they are good and they don't have to collect.
No, but it really sounds
stuff,
like
you know? And,
it was like a legit Buddhist Rinpoche that was
doesn't
here.
sound like it.
No, it was like it was something famous. No, but like go check a Buddhist temple. It was a Rinpoche that is really known, and it was just deeper. It was maybe also, but it was just deeper.
Buddhism is so big, there's like so many schools.
Because they
and
say, for example, it's like it's sacrilege or something, you know. To I understand maybe when you have a deity, you don't want to put it in the trash. So it's like maybe that's the reason why they say you need to keep them, and have respect for the deity little mini card. And they were saying like I understood, but then I was like, oh, so in Christianity it's the heaven, the hell, but I guess I just didn't know, but I was surprised. I was like, oh damn, like even Buddhism, they have you have to do this to get there.
She was deep.
She was like, shit. Because I really love the philosophy.
But you have to do something, right, to get somewhere, or what?
No, but I'm like, no. Well, so what I felt was like, no, you know what? Okay, so Mr. Buddhist Rinpoche or something, like, the official is like, they were telling me how to do my life to get to nirvana. And for me, because I was mostly grown up without religion.
Can you give examples of how they were doing it?
I don't know, just look at like how does a Buddhist achieve nirvana, like what are the things they need to do. So for me, what I didn't like is like they were telling me to
do
like
things,
I said, like you have to
structure
collect
steps.
the cards.
Yeah.
You probably have to do other things like that, And I was like, no, sorry. Like I think I like the philosophy. I'm gonna follow the philosophy, and why would I not go to nirvana if I follow my life pretty well with the philosophy?
So good. What you're trying to, maybe I'm just trying to understand you. So is what you're trying to share, or that you believe that it should be individual, that you should just live your experience and get whatever takes you to that nirvana, versus following it step by step?
Yeah, I am very reluctant to anything that tells me you should do this to achieve that when nobody came back from that.
And don't know you, don't know your genetics, don't know your own.
Because I think that's manipulation.
But
that's
I
it.
don't know, like,
No, it's not
if you want to become a good football player, you need to train in a certain way. Training in a certain way is better.
Yeah.
Training
Even
in a
physical.
different way, right?
That's a
So
very good
if
point.
you want to, like, the Buddha became.
You're a coach.
It worked for him.
No, yeah, that's a very good point.
if
Very
they
some
Teach
standards.
people how to do stuff. To
Yeah,
reach
it's true.
goals.
Yeah, like reinventing the wheel every time, it
Yeah.
may not be
That's a very good
the
point.
best.
The most
Buddha
efficient.
really
Yeah.
lived, you
It's-
know, like,
yeah.
and achieved what he achieved.
Yeah.
Really. He had a path, right?
Yeah.
And like,
He wants
that's
to
the way.
teach that.
The same as like the guy that became a good soccer player.
Yeah.
It's the same like going
So
to heaven.
let's
but
take another example. If
just
do you
saying it's the same as a Catholic who is
No, can
telling
I-
you how to go to
So
heaven.
it's like, do you have to really send it to church or
Okay, so can I say something on that?
But
Can I say something on what you're saying? I think what you're trying to say is, or what I believe that I understood from this, is that these rules were made because you really genuinely worked for someone else in the class, but it may not work for you. Same with that soccer player. It worked for him, he achieved that, but it may not work for me. So that's it. Like, deconstruct your own reality based on, yes, gather little philosophies here and there of different
because I feel
different
what the
experiences.
point I was trying to make is like some religion would be like the right thing to do is to come to see us every Sunday,
And they truly
and
believe
for
that.
me like I was always like, why? Like, I think I have a
Exactly.
connection with God at home, you know?
You can choose which one you agree with
Yeah.
and which one you don't.
What
That's
works
your own
for you.
decision, right? Like, that's,
Yeah.
each one has their own. You're like, I don't agree with this one.
That's
I
not
agree
really a
with this
moral
one.
though. That's just
Yeah.
like personal choice. You know?
But it's right or wrong. They tell you it's right or wrong. That's why I link back to the definition
I
of
think one of the
moral.
issues though with that would be like that these religions are telling you this is the 100% the right way.
Yeah.
You know, just like
And they make
everyone says you have to get vaccinated.
and it works for that.
They teach you, right? It's like they teach you.
That's technically law.
So
Like,
one thing
that's not morality.
One thing I wrote down, and maybe we can agree on, is that all morals are relative. Like,
Yeah.
do we
Yeah.
agree or disagree?
And would you say like
I
go
totally
through your
agree.
own experience,
It's my
right?
deepest belief.
And deconstruct from that.
Yeah, everything is relative. So, yeah, morals are.
So is that then why we get so angry when other people violate our morals?
Yeah.
When they're like, yo, dude, I'm just, you know,
Doing my
like
thing.
ExxonMobil. And, you know, you're just like, you're an
Yeah.
asshole. And they're
Yeah.
like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, there's not really any, you can't convince them.
Yeah.
There's no real,
But
you
that's
see the
illegal.
world
That's a
differently.
very good point. Like, you're like, you're an asshole. And they're like, no, I'm not.
In a way, that's a good thing, though. You need, as Monica said, like these opposing forces to find balance in the middle. I think that was also your point. You got to find a balance between these two things. So it's actually kind of a good thing for humanity. You have two opposing forces that you have to come together and discuss.
Yeah,
That's really
diversity.
good.
Yeah, multicultural.
Integrity.
That
Also, a society where everyone just had the same morals and all did the same
boring.
thing constantly,
Yeah.
super boring.
They
no
could
one wants
try.
that, you know?
It
With
will
that-
never change.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
more
And
peaceful.
the best,
Everyone
the worst thing
has
is
the
it
same
will never
More
change.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that we had last week actually is every single person agreed with every single thing that we said. You know, so like last time when we were talking about death, and we were just sort of like, fuck, like, we should have some like
Diversity.
Like the four of us, like we have lived pretty much the same lives. you know?
Yeah,
So like we all have the
diversity is
exact same.
yeah.
Like there's just an echo chamber where we're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
oh, you're
yeah.
so cool. And they're, yeah. So
You too.
yeah, we're all so cool, guys. You know, and that's good. Like we do that 6 days a week, but you know, like it's good
That's
for
what
like
the
the velocity
antithesis-
meetup
yeah.
to like also have like
Yeah, antithesis, going back into the shoes of the opposite to see what would
which is why I think it's like good to also like accept everyone has their own set of moral standards, right, that they live by, and they're probably operating within it, and like if they're not, that's on them, you know. And it's also like say drug addicts, for example, they know it's wrong to steal, but they have an addiction, right? So they're going to do that, they're going
They
to
have to
rob people,
survive.
they're going to do stuff that's against their own ethics, against their own morals. But it's also, you know, it's like that's the situation that they
Survival
find
comes
themselves in,
first.
you know?
That is, I'm sorry, but for me, that comes down to habits and addictions, and then that comes into disorders. That for me is a little more different than a moral. It aligns, but when you are in that moment of like deep down in your anxiety and like you really like, I have binge eating disorder, so it's a different disorder, right? Like some people do it like heroin, some people do it whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, moral applies to everything, but that's more deeper into like habits, addictions, and awareness of that.
But I mean, like the person without the addiction would have a set of morals, you know, but then they're betraying that set of morals due to this like parasite pretty much that's got them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just being more understanding of like where everyone's at, you know, like we're all kind of.
Okay, does anybody have like an idea of how we can take something tangible away from this? Like how we could take something tangible away from it that we can maybe apply to our lives? Like anybody want to?
Ooh, I did love the first one you mentioned, that it really all depends. Like that one
To
for
me,
sure.
I feel like that emphasized more of the role of communication. I'm like, if I was to take that in my business and the discussion, it would be to be very clear with people and communicate
Communication for
my
sure.
values and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in personal relationship, etc. as well. But you see what I mean? It's like, because we conclude that everything is depends, la la la,
Yeah.
we need to
You can justify it all,
communicate
right?
and voice
Yeah.
it up and listen to the other person. But I always think there is a way to, through communication, to get to an agreement. You know,
Yeah.
like if you have two different people with two different systems. But yeah, it's that would be my tangible
good.
So
takeaway.
it all depends. Communication, what you said about ignorance, which I translated to awareness.
Learning,
So those
yeah.
are the three things. Education, awareness is
I love awareness because it's like reflect on why you do something. because you may not be aware of some morality points you have, but it's just because it's the social one you have on your head.
mean, like
And
your
awareness is
individual
a very
awareness?
ambiguous
Yeah.
topic, but we can put it into more tangible words of education, right? So
Mindfulness.
not
Self-reflection.
mindfulness.
Yeah, no, awareness I think more like mindfulness, more like being aware.
Aware,
Like
yeah.
becoming aware has nothing to do with education.
Yeah.
It's like you being aware of what's going on inside of you, how the world is reacting to you, like just
But
being
there is
aware,
also- there is-
self-reflecting, introspection. More
Yeah.
But there is also a piece of education or
Yeah,
some
but you can educate yourself
getting
as well,
knowledge,
yeah.
you know, or experiences what
After
we
you
do.
self-reflect,
Experiences.
Gathering data to see where you stand.
Yeah, because sometimes to self-reflect you need the education
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand the
You need to
information
understand the
that your
tools.
reality is
The
throwing.
practices. So it's like 2 to 3 different things. It's not one thing.
No,
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
awareness, education, tools,
Experiential as well. because
experiences.
Sometimes you think something in your head, and when you do it, it's completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially experience.
Because it can give me the information, but if I don't have the, I don't know what even the word is, but if someone tells me don't do it because this will cause this, but in that moment I'm like, I truly don't believe that's true.
Mhm.
I won't listen, pay attention to it, or even honor what those words were. But if I then, someone tells me the same thing a year after, I'm like, yes, because I already had the experience. I already had to sit down with like, okay, yes, I'm gonna listen to that.
As well, I think community is a very important aspect of like a practical part of developing your morals and things like that. So like I was saying, like where I ethically don't think it's really, or morally rather, don't think it's really a big deal to cheat on a spouse or something, or like if you're seeing a girl and you're just fucking a bunch of other ones as well. I didn't think that was a,
Bingo, that was another one.
I didn't think that was an issue before, but then like, but then my community that I have, they say like,
Apart from the
that's
fact
wrong.
that you have a wife.
So,
What?
You have a wife.
I feel like you wanted to say something.
You get married.
Exactly
already.
that.
You sorry, did you?
I just think a tangible takeaway for what's interesting is I think we all kind of agree
Sorry,
that.
I didn't
So
I agree with that.
I do think it's the common thread here seems to be community, like you said, and I think it's interesting that none of us here say fuck everyone else, whether it's whatever size your community is, right? But it all comes down to like none of us really agree that you should only be out only for yourself. Even if you are only helping your immediate family, it still has to be greter than just you, all of your
That's a
actions,
good point.
That's a
which I
great
think is
point.
interesting.
Mhm.
Community.
Thank you, verbalize.
For your.
If you
want
wanna get down,
By the way, those muffins,
There's Nutella.
fucking awful.
Huh?
These muffins are they're gluten free and they're pretty.
Oh, gluten, anything.
Oh.
give it a try. They're good.
I mean, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
free. I can't really eat.
Where did you bought it?
I got all this at
You're
Dan.
not together. Yeah.
I did.
Are they
Put
good?
Nutella on it.
No.
They
You
are.
just said they were very hot.
They're quite
Well, no, I
hot,
like it.
No,
But I mean, we have.
I think they
we
could be
have.
better with like a tea or coffee.
Mhm.
They're not bad.
Well, we have tea and coffee too. But yeah, so those are some interesting takeaways. So pretty much communication, which I think is really key. And that's something as well with relationships. Like a lot of people, they get in a relationship and then they just never communicate what's
Yeah,
right,
they
what's
won't.
wrong. You know, like the girl that I'm seeing right now. You know, like we never had this conversation about what is okay to do and not okay to do, and she comes from like the complete opposite life that I came from. So just now it's kind of coming up, and then I haven't spoken to
You're
her.
like, sorry, Roger.
because of that.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
yeah.
have so many misunderstandings. I mean, I have been through the same as what you just described, and it's like you have so many misunderstandings because literally you can't guess what is the right or wrong because of your culture and how you grew up.
So communication.
Yeah. Speaking up. You gotta speak up, even the most basic stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we all know that from traveling to other countries, you know, like you just know that, wow, I really didn't know they were doing it like that
Or
here.
even like going past your ego and saying, I'm sorry, I just was not aware of that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I said this and I thought in where I'm from, like this is totally okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you take personal responsibility for stuff?
What do you mean?
Like you take responsibility
But
for
you
actions
didn't
and you don't blame others.
What?
You don't blame others for your mistakes. Like you take responsibility for them.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I don't understand.
Like, what if you if you did
Yeah.
she was saying like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Would you take responsibility for something that you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I really didn't know that was not okay in your culture? Would you take responsibility? Like you didn't know?
I was joking, but yeah, I
She was
absolutely-
Yeah, we know sarcasm, by the way.
That's a joke that
No,
we.
but that's a good question because some people say you should still apologize. I had this conversation a long time ago, and it's like there's two camps on that as well. It's like, well, I really didn't know, so I can't really be responsible for it. And some people who are like,
But you kind of apologize for
yeah, you
that.
can apologize.
I think if in doubt, you should probably just apologize. Like,
Yeah, perhaps to say the word I'm
Take
sorry, but
responsibility
at least
in
say
terms
like,
of,
oh, I
sorry,
wasn't aware.
I did it. It's my fault.
Recognizing
My
it,
fault
yeah.
came from
Yeah.
not willingness.
Yeah, you wouldn't say I
Another
take
thing
responsibility.
Yeah, you don't have to
You
say
have to
I'm
put
sorry.
there, I
Just
think
say like,
it's
oh, I wasn't
willingness.
aware.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Willingness can use.
if that makes you feel a little better, but
Like willingness to change your morals?
No, they
I just made my
the
own
morals
sentence out of your
stay in the willingness of doing something. I mean, if you wear something, but you don't want to wear something, it's like it's different. I can hit you on purpose or hit you
oh, you mean your intention, like
with
my
intention. The willingness of doing something.
Observe your
It's where
intentions.
it all
morals
comes back
stay.
to intention.
Observe your
It's
intentions.
intention, intention, willingness, call it whatever you want.
That gets to be a slippery slope though, because like you can try not to like, oh, I'm not gonna tell them this because it could hurt them, and like your intention is to not hurt that person,
Yeah.
but then at the same time you're also lying to them, and it's like.
With intention,
That's what
you're
I'm saying,
assuming
like-
that.
Intention, it's very,
But people are
it's
not
a very,
willing.
It's a
place
complicated
where,
one, yeah.
where moral really lies, really,
Yeah, it comes
really,
from there. Yeah.
really manifests itself.
But
Because-
if you're not willing to sit down with that discomfort, like telling that person like shit, like I don't want to, like how are you gonna fix that? Like it's just you have to sit down.
I
with
think
that
communication
discomfort.
is probably like communication with your personal morals, and then like actually having open up, like understanding your own personal morals,
Yeah.
and then sitting down and talking with people.
Your boundaries, yeah.
Your boundaries, as well as like hear about where their situation is, you know, and then like that comes from like community levels, you know, on a family level, you know, because like your family's changing constantly as well, depending on where, like what epoch that you find yourself in. You're always going to be like some things that were okay when you were when you're an adult weren't okay when you were a kid. Like you can we can swear in front of our parents now when we couldn't.
That's one of the
before,
biggest
so.
highlights that you mentioned about even religion. Like it's really not up to date. Like what religion, what you mentioned about Buddhism. Like whoever wrote this of that little thing that you were like, what? Like maybe perhaps genuinely back then they really thought that was it. But it's just not up to date. So like everything is changing so fast. Like humanity is evolving so fucking fast. Like even like in the world of like species, we're still hunter-gatherers in a world where it's all very like fast and also like not much movement. So this is where the disconnection of so many like anxieties comes into place.
But
Same with religion.
To go with that, it's like your beliefs and what you think will go away with you, right? Like you will die, but the religion will still remain, and those teachings will still remain.
Why do you think that is?
So irrespective of
written
like
down.
what you think right now and what you feel to be right, people are still gonna follow the book, whatever book that may be, the Bible, the Quran, or whatever the book that is. So you can't necessarily say that religion is not evolving. And religion was not just written over a course of like 10 years, it was written over a course of like centuries. So it's not just like it came to a point where it's not necessarily evolved into a book, it has been evolved into a book. And those are also sets of moral that people tend to believe. So they can't necessarily be wrong.
But it evolves
that's-
because the
They believe
Pope
not in
adapts
the
stuff,
book,
no?
they believe in the institutions.
But
It
then
was
how would you?
created.
So I know a girl whose parents are very like strict Muslims, and then she lives her whole life like proper, and then she goes out and does what she's gonna do, and she's like got this double life, and she's got like all these different disorders and things
That's
like
a
that now
personal
because
thing
it's
again,
like.
right?
But that's kind of because
that's
it's because
not
like they and her
religious at all.
parents haven't been able to update
It
their
has nothing
beliefs.
to do with parents. It's like also like if I tell you not to do
because
something,
I
your
look-
brain's
look
automatically
like
gonna want to do
talking.
that. Like the more I tell you, Jeff,
and
this
you
is
tell me.
fucking wrong for you, don't do it. You're gonna be like, fuck, why is this guy telling me? Like, is this forbidden fruit? Let me touch it. You know, it's just one of those things. It just happens. It's just
For a lengthy
human
talk because it's
human
But
nature.
I don't know. Like I think like the fact that her parents are super strict and it's like she can't be honest with them because
but also you have
like
to
the
understand-
world is different than the world that they live.
Would
also
you
have-
not agree that it's because she's not willing to sit down through the discomfort of having the tough conversation with her
Potentially, yeah,
parents, or
definitely.
even like being exiled
There's no
from
tough
that
conversation
community?
though.
What
It's
do you
just
mean?
you either do it or you
That's
just
it,
like
that's
you
it.
get disowned from
The
the family.
conversation or
That's a
exiled
tough,
from
that's a
that
tough
community.
conversation to have. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
choose
and
with
what happens
yourself.
back in the day? I mean, if
I think
you don't
it's
have
more than
family, you don't
Yeah,
survive.
yeah.
You know, you get outcasted by your tribe, which means you have literally nobody to look after you. People don't want to do that. It's survival and reproduction at the end of the day,
It's fear.
and that comes for survival basically. If you don't have your family, so why
And
would
if
you
it
want to
works
have that
for her to
conversation?
have to
yeah, well,
develop-
that's what I'm saying. It is a difficult conversation
No, it
that she
doesn't.
probably
You
needs
mentioned
to
that she
like.
has disorders because
We
of
don't know if
this.
it's
the consequence can be very big. That's why it's
The
fun.
consequence can be very big, yeah. So then, like, the choice is, hey, like, I look at the world through this lens. My parents look at it through this lens. If I try to have this
But let's say,
conversation,
you know, for you, like, you know, you were born in Canada, right? For you, like, growing up, like, maybe you, like, it's okay for you to sit down with your family and have a drink. For a Muslim person or for, like, a religious person, that might not be the case. But when they grow up, they see all their friends doing it, and at some point they want to do it too. What is wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just they don't want to say to their parents that they did that. Or even with smoking, for example, as a matter of fact, something as simple as, like, smoking a cigarette. It's wrong. Like, no, you can't do it in a religion. But maybe they see their friends doing it and they want to do it, you know, because they're like, oh fuck, I want to try it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing's a problem
they don't-
until it's a problem.
They don't have to go and tell their parents. I don't think there's anything wrong
You
with
don't
that.
have
well, I
to.
mean, I also don't.
Yeah.
I think like hiding stuff fucks with you internally. You know, like
It
anytime.
depends. It's relative again.
Well,
It
one thing
depends
is
on the
hiding.
consequences. Like, okay, let's say if you tell them that, you risk getting killed,
Yeah.
which is in some religions it can happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're not gonna tell them,
But one thing
you
is
know, and you're
hiding.
gonna live this
But
parallel
then
life.
that would kind of come down to like the morals of religion being less flexible as like.
It's the same thing
things
about
that-
Veronica saying, like, would you lie to somebody when you know if you're gonna save their life? Like, you may want to look into that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you might want to lie.
It all
I would
depends.
lie to
That's
save
what we
my
agreed,
life.
right? It all
I
really
agree.
depends.
Also, you
Because
guys are
religion
defining
seems to be more
societal versus
inflexible.
personal. Like the religion is societal, you as a
Yeah,
person is personal. I want to smoke, my religion says I can't. They're like the two.
But and then another thing is what you said. You hide it from someone. You can choose to hide it. Or you can choose to not even bring it up. Like,
It's
that's
two
up to
different
you.
societies.
But there's
It's
also
not
not-
personal.
there's also
Because the
cultural.
thing is like, if someone asks
Two
you
different
something,
societies.
you
It's
say,
not
like,
personal.
oh, sorry.
The community says no.
She belongs to the.
There's also like
It
a
doesn't match.
cultural construct
Moral
where,
basis.
out of respect, I wouldn't
Doesn't
want to
have
do
a
that in
common
front of my
ground.
parents.
Out of
Yeah.
respect, yeah.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to be like
There is no
fucking
common ground, you have
stoned
to
or
say,
you know
one side,
drunk as
because
fuck
there
in
is
front of
no
my
other
parents, but
band
it's just
that
me
connect
and
you.
you know like out of respect
hiding.
that I wouldn't want to do
Yeah,
that.
like
This is
take it
society.
out of the context of
In terms
religion.
of moral.
Who is going to fuck their boyfriend
What
in
is
front of
wrong
their parents?
and what is right
It's
here is
disrespect.
different from
Yeah.
what is wrong and what is right.
What?
Yeah, that is.
Thank you.
There is no way you can cross because there is not a bridge.
But it's like you
And
can
what involving and integrating society
Guys.
is so hard because
Too.
that
I have the
bridge
vodka actually.
make,
We got
can
it
make
from the
all
lower
the
section.
people in on both sides think
Yes, brother.
That's why it's hard when people with very different
8.
morals values
Yeah, we were trying to
get
wrap it
together.
up.
Yeah.
And when these things happen in terms of society, it's even harder. That's why, for example, Chinese community in other countries are the less integrated because they are the farther from anyone else in the Western world. They're a lot more integrated in the East Asia
I just wanted to
because
ask.
the bridge is there are some like there is already like some stones, let's say. In this case, there is no stones, there is nothing. There is just these two rocks in the water, and there's no way to cross it.
Yeah, they're
It's
just
hard.
both kind of fixed in their ways, and there's no way to.
There is no
intersect.
at this point. There is no way for her to
Which
say
is tough, yeah.
to put them together.
So I mean, this
They
is
don't
probably-
agree on what is wrong and what is right.
So how do you approach a situation like that? Is maybe a good question.
You have to choose.
When you have two
Um,
extreme
likely-
opposing ideas and you can't find.
One
middle
way
ground.
is the way she's doing,
Yeah,
like
Live a double life.
having the double life.
Which is
Yeah.
tough. Yeah.
It's-
Like,
it's
for
tough.
example, she has a boyfriend that she's had for like 10 years, but like he's not the same religion as her, so her parents would like, be like
Would never let that
wouldn't allow it to happen. It's like fuck, like I love this guy, but then I can't like I've been spending 10
It's
years.
him or my family.
Yeah, exactly, which is pretty rough. But anyway,
right.
Gael had something to say, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up.
You brought the relationships sphere and morality in relationship, and it looks like we had relationship with different culture, and I feel like morality is very fluid at the individual level of relationship. Like coming from Europe, I was pretty liberal, I guess. And then coming here in Mexico, I had to learn a lot of things that you can't be in a house with opposite sex, or you can't go to dinner with opposite sex or stuff like that. And for me, recently I was like, I'm fine adapting my morality of right and wrong, because if you want a relationship to work, to a certain point, obviously. But I feel like morality, we all discussed today about more global and more anchors, values. And recently, I really felt like, wow, in relationship, morality is more fluid. Depends on the culture and stuff like that, and the individual you're with.
One thing I was thinking is the two of you are like a community, so it's like you have sort of community.
Yeah, you have to create a new community,
Yeah, your own community code.
Because next boyfriend could be, I don't know, from Europe, and then I would adapt to, okay, your right or wrong is that, and I'm gonna adapt up to the point that it doesn't sacrifice my values, obviously, but...
Yeah, should you adapt or should you agree upon something?
Yeah, exactly.
And then also kind of find your own community that calibrates good with your values too, right?
Yeah.
Then what makes a community?
What's that?
That's what makes a community.
What makes you a community? It's you agree on a common ground of values.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are not a community.
Yeah.
You're just a group of people
Yeah.
working together, or
Yeah.
that's why the big companies make a lot of effort on creating their values.
Yeah.
That means
Yeah.
they create their own morality, because it's the only way that you can put a big group of people feeling a community,
Yeah.
creating a common ground of values. What is wrong and what is
Long
right.
story short, read Sapiens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely.
That's
if
a
you haven't-
very good point, Giacomo. And we'll end on that one.
Create your own. Create your vision.
Create your own
Any nature. Okay, let's create we should create the common values of this community next time.
Very good session.
Well, next time we have a very special event. We're going to be talking about simulation theory.
Simulation.
Yeah.
Simulation.
Are you trying to make a joke? We're gonna apply it.
Simulation.
Are you
theory.
bringing
Let's
an
talk about that one later.
So essentially, we're going to discuss how potentially none of this is real.
Oh, nice.
Okay, Schopenhauer.
We'll watch a video and
Watch
simulate
Patrick's
and then we'll
before-
discuss.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of throw away the practical aspect of the philosophy. We're going to watch a video and then we're going to discuss the...
Okay.
Everyone
I want
makes
an
some
Oculus.
wheels.
Oh, so,
What's
yeah.
that?
You want to know an Oculus?
Okay, our boy...
You should do with an Oculus.
Our boy
Charlotte
should be
would
coming
love
here
this
with an
conversation.
Oculus.
Really?
so,
Is she
yeah.
nice?
Fast.
She's coming. Who?
Never tried.
Nezier.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Oh, nice. You know him well.
That's interesting. That became even more interesting.
He's gonna like this when he listens to it. Okay,
What's
nice.
up? Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you all for
Very
coming.
cool.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for the food.